After the First World War, a large influx of immigrants from Asia, Eastern, and Southern Europe poured into America. As a measure to decrease this big immigration, the government enacted the Emergency Quota Act. This act limited the amount of immigrants from each country. Based on the 1910 U.S. Census, the government only allowed 3% of each nationality to enter America. This quota was very favorable to immigrants from Eastern and Southern Europe, because a large number of them had already immigrated by 1910. As you can see from this chart of immigration to U.S. by country, in 1820 and through 1920, most immigrants came from Germany, which is in the east. Southern European countries like Italy also had a lot of immigrants entering America. As you can see from this graph, the number of immigrants coming into America in 1900s increased after the war, but started to decrease after the 1910, around the time the Immigration Acts came into place. The Emergency Quota Act did lower the amount of immigration in America, but it still wasn't enough. So, the government issued the Immigration Act of 1924. This changed the percent from 3% to 2%. It changed it so that it was based on the 1890 census instead of the 1910 census. This act favored the Northern and Western Europeans. A section of the Immigration Act also restricted Japanese immigrants from coming into America. Because of the influx of immigrants and the soldiers returning from the war, the labor force dramatically increased. People compete for the already limited amount of jobs available. Most of the immigrants were unskilled and poor, so everyone had to fight for the simple jobs that required no experience and degrees. Americans that lived in the U.S. before the war felt that the jobs in the U.S. belonged to them, and that the new immigrants were taking them away. This feeling and idea led to an increase in Nativism. As you can see from this poster, persuading people to re-elect a senator. It says, "Re-elect James D. Pellin, U.S. Senator, and let him finish the work he now has underway to stop the silent invasion." This shows that citizens in America felt like the immigrants were invading and taking what should be the rights of the real citizens of America. The KKK was revived during this time, but unlike the past KKK, this KKK was more anti-foreign than anti-black. This group was extremely popular in the Bible Belt, or near the middle southern states. They protested by marching in parades, tarring and feathering people, and holding rallies. But the KKK soon died down in the late 1920s after scandals of embezzlement emerged within the group. Rising threats of communism in Europe and communist parties in America made people in America really cautious about the issue of communism. A famous anti-communist fighter was Attorney General Mitchell Palmer. He led a series of raids in America that searched for citizens that had ties with communism. Most of his accusations had no solid evidence. One incident that shows the effects of red fear would be the case of Secco and Vanzetti. They were anarchists from Italy that became suspects for murder. Fear of foreigners and communists led people to blame and trial Secco and Vanzetti. They were sentenced to death.